Sometimes when you read a book, the author can inspire you in ways that they never intended. For instance, when I read Cunning Words by Marshall the Witch of Southern Light, I was delighted by this particular notice in the front matter.
No part of this book, be it the sequence of words or illustration, may be reproduced in any fashion without written permission from the author, Marshall W.S.L. The author is not responsible for the outcomes a reader may experience from using the operations within this book. All attempts to plagiarize, pirate, and illegally disperse or consume the content on the pages within will result in a life of untold misfortune till one meets their untimely end.
I'm a writer. If you follow this channel, you likely already know that. If you're new here, maybe not. And also, hello and well met. I often feel a little bit awkward promoting my writing, though, so you might not realize how very much I've written. It's kind of a lot. I've written books, blogs, magazine articles. I have a set of grimoire printables that are mostly my own original writing with a few notable and obvious exceptions, things that you would expect to find in witchy grimoires written by Doreen Valiente and Gerald Gardner, and always with credit. I've written online courses, speeches, and presentations. I've written novels, poetry. I once co-wrote a stage play with a group of my theater students. I've written a lot. I know many of you are also content creators as well, of all different types, which means in this digital age that a good many of you will have had content stolen. If you rely on that content for any part of your livelihood, that intellectual property theft can impact your quality of life in tangible ways, and maybe even your basic survival needs of flags, flax, and fodder. The copyright fight is one that I've definitely had to have over the years. I'll spare you the details. It's never anything exciting. Mostly filing DMCA notices and contacting online marketplace support desks when I see people attempting to sell my work as their work. I've talked with other authors, both well-known ones and less well-known ones, and every one of us has experienced copyright theft to the point where some of us are totally numb to it, or worse, feel powerless to fight it. Anyone with a decent social media following actually seems to play a never-ending game of username whack-a-mole with clone accounts trying to scam followers and supporters. It's gross. Join me once more for story time with Auntie Laurelei. Once upon a time, there was someone who flagrantly plagiarized one of my coven mates on a topic they had presented at a one-time only and very small event about 10 years ago. Tangent cam. That event has only happened once so far, but I do have intentions to bring this event back. Think of it as a folkloric witches retreat weekend, and let me know in the comments if you would come to Indiana or Kentucky for such a thing. So my friend and coven sibling had done a good amount of research, as well as a lot of intuitive work around a somewhat obscure but not entirely unheard of tool. They had gone even further to develop their own rituals and techniques for working with this tool. They had the intention of publishing about it, but their writing was still in the developmental stages at the point where they were presenting at this event. This other someone, whom we knew and had no reason at the time to distrust, struck up a dialogue with my soul sibling and won the confidence of them, to the point that soul sibling shared their work in progress. I'm sure that you can guess where this train of thought is headed. Destination intellectual property theft station. That other person ultimately failed in their attempts to profit from their theft. Why? Well, witchery, actually. The first person they tried to pass the work off to was a witchy publishing friend of ours, and the whole thing exploded in their face. I could end the story there, and it would be a suitable anecdote for the power of charms to protect your intellectual property. But, as it turns out, the story doesn't actually end there, because just a few weeks ago, this same chucklehead reached out to me using a poorly conceived pseudonym and attempting to engage me in a friendly dialogue about one of the workshops I presented at the same 2014 event. And that mad motherfucker is trying again to steal a pie from the same windowsill as before. For someone who claims to be a witch and magician, how can you put so little stock in another witch and magician's magic? All right. Thus endeth story time with Auntie Laurelei, and so beginneth the caveats and disclaimers before we craft some work. What we're going to do today is not the actual or primary protection charm and hex that I've used on my own intellectual property. The fourth power of the Sphinx cautions me not to divulge the actual details of real work that I've put into place. So what I'm sharing are examples of what could be done, which I hope serve as inspiration for your own workings. I also think it's worth pointing out, for those of you potentially feeling alarmed, that I'm openly advocating for performing hexes, curses, and other baneful magic, that when I lay this type of work, I do it as a reactive and progressive working. That means that the protection charm isn't really activated until an enemy comes sniffing around, and the hex or curse isn't deployed until they attempt to take a harmful action. If they get wise and back off at any time, the whole thing settles back down to nothing more than a wary watchfulness. Essentially, then, if a person encounters these spells, they don't have to suffer any ill effects if they just do the right thing, heed the warning, and back off. But the more they persist, the worse it will be for them. Ready to do some work? Let's go then. This is one spell with 3 phases or cycles. I've decided to create a sigil that will be connected to a spirit, which means a spirit compact will be involved. But first, I need to think about the logistics of how I want the spell to work. What impact will it have? For humans and AI entities trying to source material that they can steal, what I want is for them to experience up to 3 levels of magical action. The first is invisibility. This is a shielding, a warding. They'll just struggle to find, access, or retain the content. Like pinning down smoke, they'll find the content slippery and amorphous, if they're even able to perceive it at all. This is a forgetting. Second, aversion. This piece or phase of the spell is for people or bots who are able to latch on to the content and harbor some intention of using it in ways to profit themselves without permission, credit, and or compensation to the original creator. The goal at this stage is for them to be repulsed or repelled. It might feel like disgust, or maybe just a poor fit, or it could actually feel like an alarm sounding inside their head. And thirdly, necrosis. This is the final and most intense phase of the spell, where consequences start to take effect. If a person or bot persists in using the work in an unsanctioned manner, the guardian spirit attached to the sigil will plant a seed of rot and decay. The more the thief persists, the further and more intensely the rot would spread. I would not limit the spirit in terms of scope or effect or final outcome. Basically, if the thief persists in thieving, the spirit will persist as well. I prefer working like this for my darker magic. It truly allows the punishment to fit the crime. The target of such a spell is given absolutely every opportunity to stop the curse, including after they've jumped into the third and final phase. If they abandon their thievery, the rot would heal. And if they don't, honestly, whatever happens, happens at that point. They did it to themselves. So, with that, I've decided some parameters for how I want the spell to work. Next, I needed to make some choices about the form of the spell, what spirit I'm going to call on, what deal I'm going to make, and what timing needs to be involved. Let's actually start with figuring out the spirit next. The spirit might come with some really obvious choices for the other bits, and they're going to be a partner in the work. When I'm choosing a spirit, I like to start by considering the ones that I already have a working relationship with. They're my spirit court. I've been doing spirit work for a really long time, so my network is pretty extensive at this point. But if nobody suitable comes forward from my closest contacts, then I typically go straight to my favorite spirit index. For me, that's the Witch's Key to the Legion, which has a reference chart where you can cross-reference spirits by their areas of influence. This part of the process is part research and part intuition. The spirit needs to make sense to my mind, but I also need to feel a rightness of fit, and I need to sense their interest and willingness. I want enthusiastic consent. For the sample spell, I'm going to work with Astaroth. I have a long relationship with her. And while most modern Goetic manuscripts list her as a duchess, I know her as a queen mother. She's said to be part of a trinity of spirits that includes Lucifer and Beelzebub as well. And her name is derived from the Phoenician goddess Astarte. She is similar and connected to Astarte, and also to Ishtar and Aphrodite, and she is deeply connected, as they are, to life, death, and magic. It's said that she smells of roses to those who love her and sulfur to those who do not. My publishing company is called Asteria Books, and we could see Astaroth as the goddess or spirit who's pictured on our current logo. In fact, we're going to use that logo in the sigil that we're creating. I really like to work in threes, so we're going to choose 2 other symbols to incorporate into the sigil as well. Astaroth's sigil is a natural second choice, and I'm actually going to stick with the theme of Venusian energies and use the second pentacle or pantacle of Venus from some Solomonic lore. This pentacle is said to attract love and honor, and also to protect anything belonging to or in the realm of Venus. And frankly, given the origins of my little publishing house and the nature of my personal power, everything that I do belongs in the realm of Venus. In terms of form, I've got my 3 symbol references, but now I need to combine them. I'm going to get a little techie for this, only a little. I've already decided that what I want to create is a graphic talisman that I can embed on or in my content. I can do this a few different ways. It could be an update to my logo. It could be a frontispiece, which is a graphic that gets printed in a book's front matter. It could be an image that's incorporated into the cover art, or it could be a graphic that appears on the copyright page or with my author bio. I've decided that I want it to be something everyone who accesses my content is going to see in any format or media that they are encountering it in. So I'm opting for it being an update to the logo in this example. And I'm going to use Canva to accomplish the design. You could use any graphics program, of course. I just happen to like Canva, who is not a sponsor of this video. I've decided to do something a little different and make parts of the sigil invisible. This echoes and reinforces my intention for the first phase of this spell, which is invisibility, if you remember. So I'm going to layer my 3 symbols, but only the original logo will remain visible to a casual viewer. The execution of this idea is very 21st century, I guess, but the concept is quite old. Spells and talismans have been drawn in disappearing inks or clear solutions before now. This is the same concept. I like it because the symbol is still there, it exists, but it isn't drawing attention to itself per se. Since the second pentacle of Venus and the sigil of Astaroth are both based on a pentagram or 5-pointed star, I'm going to layer these images in alignment with each other. And then I'm going to move them into alignment with the Asteria Books star, which is more points. And then I'm going to crank down their opacity. Then when I download this total graphic with a transparent background, I'm going to be good to go. Because I'm working with a spirit to do this magic, though, I know that I need to work out my compact with her. So this is the next step. And I do this part with a print copy of my new logo, talisman, in whatever way that I do Goetic workings. I'm not going to go into that entire process here. I did write a book, y'all. And also I have lots of videos on spirit work with more on the way, so there are resources. But here's what I'm going to be using as the compact. On the day and in the hour of Venus, I call upon the great Queen Mother of the Legion, Astaroth, to be my companion and my champion. As Queen of the Heavens and Queen of Hell, I ask of you to bless and protect any content I create under the seal of this talisman. A constellation of stars seen and unseen to bring good fortune to readers of pure intent and disaster upon any intelligence, natural, ethereal, or artificial, who would steal and misuse this work or purport it to be their own without credit to its creator. Lady Astaroth, here as elsewhere, be thou the radiant and fragrant rose to those who gaze upon your symbols with love, respect, and right dealing. And be thou the pernicious thorn to those who would pluck what is not theirs to take. Let your thorns serve as a warning to the wise and a scourge to the wicked. The harder they squeeze, the deeper the damage and rot will spread. Do this for me for as long as the words protected under this seal echo through time, and in whatever manner they persist, whether printed, spoken, digitized, or by any other conveyance or method of perception. And in exchange, I offer you 3 gifts: the essence and vitality of the thieves themselves in right proportion to that which they persist in taking, this copper ring, and an offering of a drop of my own blood as frequently as every Friday, or on the holy dates assigned by you and beginning today. If I fail in my duties to you, your protection is withdrawn, and you keep all you've received. If you fail in your duties to me, you will send just recompense in golden favor upon my name and my purse. I place a dressed chime candle on top of the image in compact along with the copper ring and a lancet. Using the lancet, I draw a drop of blood, which I use to feed the ring as promised. Because I'm activating the spell, I also feed a drop to the logo and another to the contract, all while reciting a chant. For this, I'm adapting a well-known chant pattern with the intention of being to summon and stir Astaroth to seal the bargain on her side. I chant during the entire burn time of the candle and gaze upon its flame for a sign of confirmation. The chant goes like this: Ishtar, Astarte, Venus, Astaroth, Asteria, Kypris, Inanna. Confirmation can come in several ways, especially since I'm now scrying in the candle flame. Maybe I see a vision, hear a message, or feel a sensation that tells me Astaroth accepted the deal. If no confirmation comes, I would either re-enter negotiations via spirit flight or various other communication techniques, or I might just scrap the whole concept and start over. Technically, though, my nature is that I'd only start over if it felt like I was getting a great big no from Astaroth. After that, I'd make sure that the new logo file is somehow attached to everything I publish. Books, videos, PDFs, etc. As long as it's there, readers and viewers would be exposed to it. It will do its job. And that's that. If you found today's video useful, helpful, or inspiring, or thought-provoking, please bless me with the magic of the like button and help me to feed the spirit of the algorithm by sharing the video and telling your witchy friends that good things are happening over here at Blade and Broom. I'll see you next week. Bye, friends. As I do, so